Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another video. My name is Abbie and this is Spend More Time in the Wild. Got a beautiful autumnal afternoon today, and what better season to be looking at 4-season backpacking tents. So when it comes to hiking throughout the year, you can look at different tents based upon the different climates and different seasons that you're going to be walking in. The things that vary these tents is their design, whether they're freestanding or whether they require guy lines to put up, the actual shape of them, whether they're hoop and tunnel or whether they're dome design or something else altogether. And basically this means they're going to weigh different amounts, it means they're going to look differently, it means they're going to cope differently in different weather conditions and different climates, whether that's breathability and condensation, whether that's structural stability against strong winds, whether that's waterproofing against heavy rains. And 4-season tents are designed to use throughout the year, but more predominantly heavier use during winter seasons where there may be cold weather, windy weather, wet weather and snow on the ground as well. And today we are looking at this tent, this 4-season tent, which is the Terra Laser Compact All Season 1. So this is a pretty new release by Terra, and it's a takeoff essentially of their previous all-season tent, which they have won so many awards for. Now, I am quite passionate about Terra and what they do because they have strong values when it comes to keeping production local and in the UK, and workers' rights, environmental sensitivity when it comes to the production of these pieces of kit. I think when it comes to us being users of the outdoors, that we have a role to play when it comes to stewarding and environmental consideration. And when we're purchasing kit, choosing pieces of equipment that harm the environment less is a really good way to go. Secondhand is a great way to go, but if we're buying new, then Terra is actually a really great place to start to consider the environment when it comes to voting with our note. So today what I'm going to be doing is basically putting up this tent and talking through all of the features, because you know it's very important to make sure you get the right tent for you wherever you are heading for your travels. 4-season tent isn't going to be for everybody. If you're not looking to weather it out on the Cairngorms plateaus or on a tour in Dartmoor in winter, this probably isn't the tent for you. But if you are and you're looking to get much more seriously into hiking all year round, this tent should hopefully see you through. Now, before we get everything out of this bag, I think it's worth me mentioning that this is not a cheap tent. This tent retails at £550. Why? Well, partly because some of the values that I just mentioned earlier, but also this is a very light tent. It weighs in at 1.48 kilograms. Now, many 4-season backpacking tents are sort of in the 2 kilograms plus range. So this really is a light tent that's perfect for bike packing adventures, lightweight hiking adventures, whatever it is you're going to be doing. But what you'll see is that the weight, or by shaving the weight, you do tend to compromise space and features. So as we put this up, keep an eye on those things and make sure this is a tent that you're going to fit in with all of your gear. So at £550, what are you getting? Well, essentially, as I say, you're getting this really nice, light, small, compact piece of equipment that is probably going to last you a very, very long time if you look after it. So the pack size here is actually 30 centimetres by 15 centimetres or so. I mean, the thing is, not everybody packs it back into this bag once you've taken it out. I think everybody has their different packing systems when it comes to tents. Some people like to loop them on the bottom of a pack, some people stuff them in the top, some people put them in side pockets. Completely up to you. Pack size for me isn't necessarily a, oh, this is a perfect tent for me. Have a think about where you're going to be keeping the tent in your rucksack, and hopefully that'll help you decide whether, again, this is the right tent for you. So we have got this bag though, and it has a nice nifty handle on the end. I do quite like a nifty handle. As you can see, this is brand new. I've had a play with this, but I haven't taken the label off. So hopefully you can see that this really is what it's going to look like when you buy it from a store. We've got a draw cord to untoggle the package here, and if we pull everything out, this is what you get. This is the tent. So there's the bag. You can see we've tent. A bag here with some pegs. We'll go through all of this in a minute. We've got a bag here with the poles, and here itself is the tent. So this tent is a tunnel design, and what that means is essentially there's a hoop or a loop in the middle, rather, that is the tent pole. You've got 2 poles either side, and it sort of goes up into the middle and back down. So that's essentially what we call a tunnel design tent. What this is going to really help allow for is maximum airflow, but you need to think about how you're pitching this so that you are getting maximum airflow. You've got a big surface area on one side, and if you pitch the wrong way into the wind, you're going to be getting buffeted, and it's going to have to resist that wind throughout the night or however long you're actually camping for. This tent is also dual skin, so what that means is we have an outer fly sheet and we have an inner with the ground sheet attached. So what you can do with this tent is you can put up them together, or you can put them up individually. You can have just the outer put up if you want to, and what that means, you can almost use it as like a tarp situation. And well, we're going to run through all of this anyway, getting ahead of myself here. But if I lay this out, you can see that the colour of the tent is this nice dark green, and that does make a difference to some people because if you're wanting to stealth camp and wild camp, then the dark green is going to blend in a little bit nicer into the landscapes that you may find yourself in. I think even in a big heather patch you can get away with a dark green and stay somewhat invisible. And this fly sheet is made of ripstop nylon, so it's actually 30 denier. Now denier is all about the density of the weave of the fabric, and the higher the denier, the higher the density of the weave, the less likely it is to snag and cut when you catch it on a rock or a bramble or something sharp. Even an eyelet of a boot, you know, whatever it might be, it's going to be nice and durable. And they haven't really compromised on this on the fly sheet or the ground sheet, actually, which is really nice to know that this is a nice, solid, stable piece of fabric, again, that's hopefully going to last you a very, very long time. So this ripstop nylon, which has a hydrostatic head, which is all about the water repellency of 5,000 millimeters. And if we then flip this over to this black piece of fabric, this is the ground sheet. This is what is making contact with the ground. Now, a lot of people like to use an additional ground sheet or footprint. I'm not somebody that does that. I tend to use the tent as it is. And this has a denier weave of 70, so 70 denier weave. So it's obviously thicker and sort of much more tear resistant and snag resistant than the outer fabric here, because this is what's going against the ground. This is where you are definitely going to have contact with brambles and with thistles and with rocks and whatever it is. So this has to be a good piece of fabric, and it is. This is also the kind of fabric that is probably going to end up sat in a puddle at some point, even if it's just a puddle of snow that's melted overnight. So it has a hydrostatic head of 10,000 millimeters. So obviously double the amount of the fly sheets. So pretty good waterproofing there as well. So I think what we're going to do now then is we're going to get this tent up, and then I'll be able to show you the design, some of the features. We'll talk through everything in a little bit more detail. Then I'll get my stuff in. You can see what it's like for fit, and basically leave you to making a conclusion as to whether or not this is a tent that you want to use for the winter season of 2021. So here we go, the tent is up. It's always exciting when you've reached your destination. You're ending the day by putting your shelter up. You get in, get everything out, whip up a brew, snuggle in. Oof, prime time, obviously. But you need to know what you're doing before you get a tent, and that's why we're looking at this with the tent up now. So what I wanted to point out, one of the first things that you can see now that the tent is up, is that the fly sheet comes all the way down to the ground. Why does it do that, you may ask? You don't see that on 3-season tents at all. Well, the reason why they do it on a 4-season tent is because basically it helps to act as a barrier against spin drift, that might be snow, or against heavy rain coming in. So basically, it's not going to get underneath the tent and get kicked up into your face in the tent. You're going to keep stuff dry. But what it does mean is that if you're not using this in the right conditions, what can happen is the moisture you're producing from your breath can get trapped in here and can lead to a heavy buildup of condensation. So that's why 4-season tents are best used in 4-season conditions. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. Next up, we're looking at the zip situation here. So there is only one entrance point to this tent, which is here on the side. We have this rain hood here over the top of the zip, which is really nice. A lot of Hillyberg tents have this as well. So basically it means you can open this from sort of the top down, and you can get some ventilation here by creating this little port or window or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but I love this feature. Or you can open it from the bottom up, just like this. You've got magnets here which help to keep this the sheet over the zip here, just to keep it protected from the elements again, so the rain isn't going to get forced through the zip. and then we have the entrance point to the tent. So before we get to that, I want to just talk about some of the features which are actually keeping this tent upright, and then we'll go inside and we'll have a look at all the stuff. But I always get excited by the entrance points, so I just had to show you that first. So what we've got actually keeping the tent nice and stable are a number of things. There's three things. There's the pole, there's the pegs, and there's the guy lines. So the pole here, you've got the pole sleeve going over the center of the tent here, and they've designed this so it's extra wide. It's twice as wide as it needs to be, so that in really adverse, crappy conditions, quite frankly, you can put two sets of poles in. It only comes with one, but you can put two if you really want to reinforce this and keep it nice and stable against some severe elements that you might find yourself in. The pole itself is a DAC featherlight alloy pole, and basically what that means is it's nice and light, and it's, well, it's not snap proof or crack proof. You've got to look after it, but it is gonna mold to the winds. It's got some flexibility, it's got some give. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. So a great set of poles actually that comes with this. Now there's two poles at either end of the tent as well. You saw me putting those in when it came to setting up the tent. Now these poles they're just alloy poles. They've not quite got the same flexibility as this center pole here. And it's really great actually, because you can either keep them in or take them out. For me, I tend to keep them in. I took them out, so obviously put the tent away as it would be when you buy it. But when you keep them in, then when you roll up the tent, you can roll it around the two poles, which is quite nice. It gives it a bit of structure to pack it away rather than stuffing it into a sack like a sleeping bag. So I quite like those, and of course they just keep up the bottom part for ventilation, which you'll see when we get inside. So that's the poles. Then we've got the pegs. So the pegs that come with this tent, there are, I believe, how many pegs are there? 14 pegs, I think, and they're 11 grams each. They are lightweight versions of your sort of very standard camping tent pegs, just sort of that classic hook design. Now, as I say, they are lightweight, but you can get lighter out there. So some people choose to keep them, some people choose to swap them out. Unlike your very traditional camping pegs, they don't bend in the same way, so they are stronger. They're really cleverly engineered, actually. But I know for me, I'm a big fan of sort of the V-shaped pegs that just V into the ground. It's like velo ground. Hello ground. I don't know, it was the worst joke I've ever made. So that's the pegs that come with this. And you've got 3 pegging out points either end, and then 2 either side. So 6, 7, 8 pegging out points. And there are plenty of other points in which you can peg out as well. You can peg out at the base of the eyelets where the center pole goes. And there's a few other spots if you want to use them too. And then we've got the guy lines. So as I mentioned, there's 3 guy lines and 2 here. So that's 8 guy lines, hence the 8 pegging out points. You can peg out more if you want to. So these are, what are these? They're just reflective guy lines, essentially. Nice and thin, nice and lightweight, nice and robust. And they've got the very classic crocodile clip so that you slide it up and down, locks in place, and you can get that tension on your tent to help with runoff and stability in the weather conditions. So that's sort of the main things that distinguish the outside of this tent, some of the sort of 4-season features and very standard features of a tent. Let's head inside and have a look at our new humble abode. Welcome home. So first thing you can see is the door is very much in the way. I mean, it depends if you like me or not. If you don't, then it's not in the way, is it really? So the way that this door has been engineered to clip back is there's a clip on the bottom of the door which clips to the inner here, and it just leaves this big massive floppy fabric which is very irritating. And I don't know about you guys, but when you've got rainwater on the outside, it just drips down and it's quite irritating. So what I tend to do is unclip it. Hang on a minute. Just entertain yourselves for a moment. All right, I unclip it, roll it up like this, your very classic rolling up design, make sure it's all tucked in. And then I've got tent pegs on me, so I can clip and clip, and that just keeps it very much out of the way. And then you have this huge door. I mean, never mind Downton Abbey, like their arches have got nothing on this door. It is a big door. And as you can see, I can sit here just on the fly sheet, and I can look out on the big wide world and admire the snowstorm coming in to get me. So what I'm going to do, because I actually haven't got one on me right now, is quickly grab a clothes peg this door up, and then we'll have a better look inside. Bear with. Okay. All right, clothes peg pegged. we're in. We've got a nice big door space now. So now that we're in, nice and comfortable, I can talk through some of the features of the inside of the tent. So I'm going to talk them through and you'll see footage on top so that I can actually just talk a little bit. So what I'm actually sat in now is this massive entire side door on the inner. It's immense. It's absolutely huge. I mean, to break all of the rules, I'm going to bring my boots inside and zip this up. Look, it's absolutely huge. And you've got this, half of it is mesh. So it blows my mind. And what this means is we've got insane ventilation here on the side. You've got good breathability. And then also on the inside of the door, we have this this cover as well, this window pane, which I've half tied away, so I'm not going to do that right now. But it's just really cool because, you know, getting wet stuff in and out of a tent in winter conditions or just even wet summer conditions is really annoying. Like, you've got to really prioritize keeping stuff dry. If you don't, everything is going to get wet. So by having this really big door, which I can't open right now, here we go, this really big door, it means that you can just get everything in and out very easily. You've got full access to the entire length of the tent, which I just think is fantastic. Then when we talk about actually access to the tent, what I mean is this porch area. So I'm going to put my backpack and a stove in here in a minute, but you've got a little bit of space around either side of the inner. There's absolutely space for a rucksack. I use a 48 litre, that'll fit in here easily. You've got space, a little cooking area. You can keep your boots down there if you don't want to keep them outside in the elements. You probably don't, so you can keep your boots down there. And there's just enough space to store wet stuff outside of the tent, which is really nice. When it comes to height, I mean, my hat is a bit of an illusion, but I'm 5'7". Some people, I used to think I was 5'8", but Anna, my partner, has full on said, no, you're not 5'8", you're too short. So I'm 5'7" now, officially owning it. So I can't sit up straight. If I was to sit up straight, you can see I'm pushing on the top of the tent. So I do have to keep that rounded back, which is obviously not going to be comfortable over a prolonged period of time. As for lying down, I'm going to take my boots off for this because I feel like a very naughty human wearing boots inside the tent. It's just a absolute no-go overall, so let me just take them off. As for lying down, I'm going to get my roll mat in here in a minute anyway, which is the Thermarest Neo Air, and you'll be able to see sort of how that fits. I think when we use a standardized piece of equipment, it's nice because you guys can see sort of what we've got space-wise. But if I lie down, I'm going to put my feet on the bottom, so literally touching the bottom, and I'm lying down, and I've got a good foot above me there of space, which just goes to show, you know, there is space in this tent. If I lie on my side here, not touching the back, then I've got this space in front of me. So there is it's roomy. No, I hesitate to say roomy. It's not bad, let's just put it that way. For 1.5 kilograms, it is not bad. Obviously so easy to put up. I mean, there's so many pros to this tent. I really love it. Then if we're going to sort of focus on ventilation again, so don't forget, we haven't got the space underneath the outer, the fly sheet, so we've got to really focus on ventilation. What the engineers of this have done, they've got the mesh on the inner here, on the inner door, but there's 2 mesh panels on either end of the tent as well, on the inner, and then the outer also has mesh, which you can open as a little window. And I really like that design as well because you can choose how to ventilate it. If snow and rain is coming in, you can block it. If it's not, if there's a nice breeze, then you can ventilate it and really help minimize condensation. So I love that feature about this, that you can sort of customize how you use it. There's a few things to play around with. Of course, we've got this ventilation point here as well, as we've mentioned with the rain hood. And you know what, that's kind of all there is to tell you about this tent right now. We've got a little pocket here on the side, which is not an essential at all, but quite nice for keeping phones and chargers and things in. But I think what's really important is you have to pull this tight. I haven't pulled this tight intentionally because I want to show you that if you don't pull things tight, the inner fabric does sag. And the guying out points of the inner to the outer with the pegs are actually elastic. And I find that they're almost too stretchy, that, you know, it doesn't get the tension that it needs. Like, there's often a little bit further that it can go. So you have to be very intentional about your pegging out to get the tension right, to stop this inner from sagging, because if it sags, it's going to get wet, you know, very possibly. So I think it just takes a little bit of practice getting used to putting this tent up. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my kit in here, and then we'll run through any final stuff that I might have missed, and hopefully leave you to have a little play around and think whether this is a tent that you'd like to take on your adventures. I mean, Oh, I tell you, I've just been on this epic 2-month cycling adventure where we've stayed in a camper van. This is the first time I've been in this tent since last winter, sort of springtime, when I was playing around with it, giving some trial tests. Feels good to be sat in this tent, people, and it's an honour to be sharing this moment with you. All right, I'm in, and what you can see is there's space, man. There's space. Now, don't get me wrong, this is the regular Thermarest Neo Air. I think if you were 6 foot, right? I think if you were 6 foot or using the large Neo Air, you might struggle here. Not width, but length. It's nice not to touch the sides, and I really believe that in winter. So it is slightly on the shorter side, I think, of some tents, but there is a fair amount of space for people who are not on the taller side. This is making no sense, but you get my point. I think, I've done about 10 nights in this tent in total, and I've really enjoyed it. I found it very comfortable. I found it the right balance of weight to space ratio for me. But I think, if you've got more kit, then for a few days, if it's really torrential weather, then for a few days, if you're taller than me, for a few days, it's going to get quite taxing. Sort of depends on your level of type 2 fun, how much you tolerate that. But for me, as I say, I've really enjoyed using this tent. I love the fact that it's got all the tape seams. It really is a step up from their last laser compact. Sorry. I love that you've got the rain sleeve at the top, so you can actually look out. There's just some really nice things that they've done, and I've enjoyed using it. And I hope that this video has been helpful for you to sort of just run through some of the features, run through what it actually looks like, how it puts up, what everything is made of, what sort of fits in here. And I think the next best thing I can say is go out and have a look at one, sit in one, have a look on a Facebook Marketplace, on Outdoor Gear Exchange if somebody has one secondhand that you can purchase, so you don't have to buy new. Ask around in your outdoor community if someone's got one that you can borrow, so you can take it out for a trip and see what it feels like. I think it's really important that we try our best not to get caught up in this consumeristic market. This is an expensive tent. This is a high-end tent. Check in with yourself about when and how you're going to use it. And if it's just not quite right for you, there will be plenty of other tents on the market as well. If you need encouragement to get out in winter, why not do a winter skills course? Why not get onto mountain training and book on a course there? Have a look on meetups, join one of our wild walks through Spend More Time in the Wild. There's plenty getting on. There's plenty of ways to build your confidence. And I really hope that, as I say, this video has been helpful and inspirational to you to get your tent out, even if it's not this one, dust it off and head out for an adventure this winter. If you do, make sure you stay safe, enjoy, and of course, stay wild. I'll see you soon, guys, and if you've got any comments, any questions, pop them below, hit subscribe, and I look forward to welcoming you on another video very soon. See ya.